17-year-old Leo stood under the flashing red and blue lights of a police car. His hands were covered in spray paint. A single drop of someone else's blood had dried on his knuckle. His gaze was fixed on the motionless body on the asphalt. The night air smelled of ozone, gasoline, and something else, heavy and metallic. Fear. Just a few minutes ago, he was finishing his masterpiece. A huge, intricate tag, Leo, with a sweeping lion's mane, bloomed on the blank wall of an abandoned warehouse. Sarah, his girlfriend, watched in awe. Her laughter was still ringing in his ears, mixing with the approaching wail of sirens. "You're amazing, Leo. This is the best thing you've ever done," she had said, pressing against his shoulder. He could feel the warmth of her hand and her light perfume. Now, that memory felt like it belonged to someone else, to an unreal life. Everything changed when Dylan emerged from the darkness. His face was twisted with rage. Dylan was Sarah's ex-boyfriend, and he had never accepted that she chose Leo. "What is this crap?" Dylan snarled, pointing at the artwork. "You think this is art? It's garbage, just like you." Leo felt his jaw tighten. He didn't want to fight. He never did. His weapons were spray cans, not his fists. But Dylan was already in his face, his breath hot on Leo's cheek. "Back off, Dylan," Leo said, trying to move Sarah behind him. "Just go." Dylan just laughed. "I want you out of my sight, you and your slut." He yanked Sarah by the arm. Leo didn't think. Instinct took over. Protect. He shoved Dylan. Not hard, just enough to push him away. Dylan stumbled. His foot caught on a piece of rebar sticking out of the ground. The fall was awkward, like something in slow motion. Dylan's head hit the curb, a dull, sickening thud. It was like a hammer striking an anvil inside Leo's own head. Dylan lay still. He wasn't moving. "Dylan? Hey, Dylan?" Sarah's voice trembled. Leo dropped to his knees. A dark stain was spreading on the asphalt. Blood. His hands were shaking. One still gripped the spray can. The other was covered in paint, and a drop of blood. Dylan wasn't breathing. The sirens grew louder, cutting through the night's silence. The headlights of the police cars snatched him from the darkness like a cornered animal. All he could think was, "I didn't mean to. I swear, I didn't mean to." The rest was a blur. Rough hands, cold handcuffs. He sat in the back of the car, the city lights streaking past. Sarah was crying. He could see her pale silhouette through the cage but couldn't reach her. The station was loud and cold. It smelled of coffee, old paper, and disinfectant. Officer Miller, a man in his 50s with a tired face and a noticeable limp, questioned him. Miller's voice was monotone. "Leo, do you understand what happened?" he asked, not looking up from his papers. His finger toyed with an old silver bracelet on his wrist. Miller just wanted to finish his shift in peace. Leo nodded. The words were stuck in his throat. The whole world had shrunk to this small, stuffy room. His eyes kept returning to his hands. Paint. Blood. He fell. "I didn't mean for it to happen," Leo forced out. Miller looked up. "A fall, an impact, a death. We've documented it all. This is manslaughter, kid. This isn't a game." The next few days blurred into a gray haze. A holding cell. Cold walls. A foul stench. He thought about Dylan, about his parents. He saw their faces on the news. Their pain was tangible. And he was the cause of it. His lawyer, a woman with sharp features, talked about mitigating circumstances. About how Leo was a talented kid with no prior record. But Leo only heard one thing. He had taken a life. The trial was swift and brutally efficient. Dylan's parents sat in the front row. He didn't dare look at them. Every accidental glance pierced him with a pain that was theirs, but now his own as well. Found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. The judge's voice was dry. 7 years in Northwood Juvenile Correctional Facility. 7 years. The number spun in his head like a broken record. 7 years without the sky, without spray cans, without Sarah. 7 years behind walls where his art meant nothing to anyone. As he was driven to Northwood, he stared out the van's window at the last glimpses of freedom. The road stretched on, leading to nowhere. He felt empty. The gates of Northwood greeted him with a screech. High walls, barbed wire, gray concrete. The air here was different. Heavy, thick with hopelessness, the smell of bleach and broken dreams. Leo was led down long corridors where every footstep echoed. They stripped him naked. The search was humiliating. He felt like a broken doll. Then they gave him a uniform, gray, coarse fabric, 2 sizes too big. He wasn't Leo anymore, just a number. Block C, Cell 7, a guard grunted. It was Officer Miller, the same one who had questioned him. Leo recognized his limp and tired face. Miller was fiddling with his silver bracelet, as if it were his only connection to the world outside. The cell was narrow, with 2 bunks. The walls were covered in scratches. The smell of someone else's sweat, old food, and dampness hit him. This was his new home. On the bottom bunk sat a boy about his age, with a pale face and downcast eyes. His fingers were deftly folding a scrap of toilet paper into a tiny paper crane. "Hey," the boy mumbled without looking up. "I'm Leo," Leo said, sitting on the top bunk. Why would anyone here need to know his name? It meant nothing. The boy nodded. He seemed coiled up, as if afraid to straighten out. Leo understood. This kid just wanted to be invisible. A good strategy. The silence in the cell was filled with the hum of the hallway, distant shouts, and the clang of iron. Leo closed his eyes. He saw Dylan's face, motionless on the asphalt. He felt his hands itch for a spray can, for a canvas. But there were no canvases or paints here. Later, at dinner, Leo saw Marcus for the first time. The mess hall was a huge, noisy room. The air was thick with the smell of cheap food and tension. Marcus sat at a table in the center, surrounded by his crew. He was older, stronger. His gaze was hard, predatory. Marcus wasn't eating. He was just watching. Leo tried to keep to himself. He felt Marcus's eyes on him, like a cold touch. Marcus was a predator, and Leo was fresh meat. And here, fresh meat was either prey or a tool. "That's Marcus," his cellmate whispered when they were heading back. His name was Sam. "Don't mess with him." Leo nodded. He already understood. Marcus was the king of this concrete box. He controlled the flow of cigarettes, small favors, information. And Leo felt that his silence was only fanning the flames of Marcus's interest. "What does he want?" Leo asked. Sam shrugged. "Nothing yet, but he's always looking. For people to do things, or just for someone weaker." Sam looked away, unwilling to continue. That night, Leo lay on his bunk, thinking about Sarah, about his art, about how easily everything had fallen apart. Here, in Northwood, there was no room for beauty, only gray concrete and dirty deals. The next day, during yard time, Marcus called out to him. The yard was enclosed by a high fence topped with barbed wire. The sky above it felt alien. "Hey, new guy." Marcus's voice was low, commanding. Leo pretended not to hear. One of Marcus's guys intercepted him. "The boss is calling you." He was big, with a spider tattoo on his neck. Leo turned slowly. Marcus walked closer, his eyes sizing Leo up like a piece of merchandise. "What's your name, artist?" he asked with a slight sneer. How did he know? Gossip. Or the guards had talked. Here, art wasn't an accomplishment. It was a label. "Leo," he answered evenly. Marcus nodded. "Saw your file. Tough break. Talented, huh? Your talent won't help you in here. Unless..." He paused. "Unless you find another use for it." Leo remained silent. He just wanted to be left alone. "You're not a talker, are you?" Marcus asked. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "I need guys who keep their mouths shut and who know how to do things." Leo just shrugged. He knew he was caught in a web. Refuse, and he'd make an enemy. Agree, and he'd become a pawn. "All right, go on for now," Marcus said, waving him away. "But we'll talk again." That evening, Sam was even more nervous than usual. His fingers were restlessly folding paper cranes. "He's noticed you," Sam whispered. "I saw." Leo nodded. "I know. What does he want from me?" "Marcus is always running something," Sam replied, not looking up. "Cigarettes, pills, notes. He needs guys who can move stuff or hide it, or guys who can draw, for tattoos." Leo felt sick. Tattoos? His art? Here? It was a desecration of everything he loved. But he also knew there was no choice here. The next day at morning roll call, Officer Miller read a list of names for mandatory art therapy. Leo, Norman, Sam. Leo's name was called. Art therapy? Here? It felt like a joke. Sam flinched beside him. "They started it up again," he muttered. Leo didn't know what to think. Was this a chance? Or another trap? He knew for sure that Marcus was already waiting, and that a conversation he couldn't avoid was coming. The noose was slowly tightening. The art therapy classroom turned out to be a dim, windowless room. The air was stale. On the battered tables lay cheap pencils, dried-up watercolor paints, and stacks of gray paper. The teacher, Miss Albright, was a woman in her 40s with a weary face. She wore thin-rimmed glasses and constantly fiddled with an old silver bracelet on her wrist. "Draw, or sit quietly. I don't care," Miss Albright said, her voice low and raspy. She scanned the group, her eyes lingering on Leo. There was neither sympathy nor judgment in them. Leo sat at a table in the back. He picked up a pencil, but his hand wouldn't obey. What was there to draw? Gray concrete? Guilt? Dylan's face? "Today's theme is open," Miss Albright continued. She placed a box of oil paints and a few small canvases on a table. The colors looked so vibrant that Leo felt a pang of nostalgia. He remembered the smell of fresh spray paint, the rough texture of a wall turning into his canvas. Here, it was cheap materials and dim light, a parody of art. Leo took a sheet of paper and began to mechanically draw lines. Gray, straight, lifeless. He was drawing walls. The walls of his cell, the walls of the corridors, the walls that separated him from everything he had ever loved. Only one thought echoed in his head. It's useless. This is all useless. Sam sat beside him, neatly folding tiny paper cranes. He didn't even try to draw. Miss Albright noticed, but just shrugged. She was used to it. For several days, Leo continued to attend art therapy. He drew abstract shapes that expressed his inner turmoil, but showed them to no one. It was his only refuge. Leo's inner world was like an abandoned warehouse, covered in graffiti of pain and guilt. He longed for Sarah, for the streets, for freedom. Every morning when he woke up, he imagined his unfinished graffiti, the Leo tag, on the ceiling. On the third day, Marcus cornered Leo in the showers, The room was thick with steam, and the smell of bleach stung his eyes. There was nowhere to run. "Well, well, artist," Marcus said, his voice low and threatening. "Heard you're painting pictures now? Good for you." He was standing too close. Leo felt his muscles tense. He knew what was coming. "We need something," Marcus continued. "From the outside. A small thing. Needs to be smuggled in, through packages." Leo said nothing. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. Contraband. "I heard you know your way around paints," Marcus said. "A few tubes. Special ones. We need you to move them back and forth. We'll handle the rest." Leo imagined his art becoming a tool for dirty deals. It was disgusting. His graffiti had always been his way of expressing himself, not serving someone else. "No," Leo said. His voice was quiet but firm. Marcus's expression didn't change. Only his eyes grew colder. "No? You think you're the tough guy around here?" He smirked. "Nobody's asking you. You just do what you're told." Leo shook his head. "I won't." He knew this was a death sentence, but he couldn't go against himself. The guilt over Dylan was already crushing him. He wouldn't add this to it. Marcus leaned in closer. "I see. We'll do it the hard way then. Your choice." He stepped back. Leo felt a chill run down his spine, despite the hot steam. He had just signed his own death warrant. The next day, after lunch, Leo was walking alone down the corridor. Suddenly, a voice called out, "Hey, Leo!" It was Tony, Marcus's guy with the spider tattoo on his neck. "Marcus wants to see you, in the showers now," Tony said. Leo stopped. He knew it was a trap, but what could he do? He slowly turned and followed Tony. The showers were unusually quiet. 3 of Marcus's guys were standing by the wall. Marcus himself was nowhere to be seen. "Where's Marcus?" Leo asked. Tony smirked. "Marcus is busy, but he asked me to tell you that you made a mistake." Before Leo could react, a fist slammed into his stomach. The air rushed out of his lungs. He doubled over and immediately took a punch to the jaw. He tasted blood. The blows rained down from all sides, to his chest, his side, his ribs. Leo tried to cover up, but there were too many of them. He fell, and the beating continued. One thought pounded in his head. Is this for Dylan? Or for refusing? Or just because they can? "This is for talking back, artist," someone hissed above him. "Remember, there's only one boss in here." The last blow landed on his temple. The world went black. When he came to, the showers were empty. He slowly, painfully, pulled himself up, clinging to the wall. Every muscle ached. He looked at himself in the mirror. A battered face, a swollen eye, a trail of blood on his lip. Beyond the physical pain, he felt a deep, burning despair. This place was trying to take everything from him. Leo staggered back to his cell. Sam froze when he saw him. There was genuine horror in his eyes. "Jesus Christ, Leo," Sam whispered. "What did they do to you?" Leo just shook his head. It hurt to talk. He collapsed onto his bunk, feeling broken. In that pitch-black darkness, amidst the pain and despair, something inside him snapped. He remembered the bright paints he had seen in the art therapy room. He had to do something. He had to get it all out, or he would go insane. He needed to paint. Not for Marcus, not for the system, for himself, to keep from drowning in this concrete filth. He knew it was his last chance, his only weapon. He had to paint his pain, or die here. The next morning in art therapy, he sat at his back table. His hands were shaking, but he picked up a pencil. Miss Albright noticed his bruises and gave him a quick, almost imperceptible glance. She didn't ask any questions. "The theme is open," Miss Albright said. She brought out a new stack of canvases. "Just paint." Leo took the smallest canvas. For the first time in a long time, he felt his fingers itch. This was his canvas. He started with black. A deep charcoal black covered the center, like a gaping hole. Then came red, aggressive strokes, like blood. Poisonous green lines intertwined with gray, like barbed wire. Leo wasn't thinking about beauty. He was just pouring out everything that had built up inside him. Fear, pain, despair, and guilt. The guilt for Dylan, which was the deepest and darkest color of all. The seconds of that fall replayed in his head. The dull thud, the blood on the asphalt. He saw Sarah's face, terrified and pale. His own hands, smeared with paint and someone else's blood. His strokes became sharper. In the center of the painting, through the gloom and flashes of red, a ray of light broke through. A thin, barely visible line of white. His last hope. A few hours later, when the bell rang, Leo stepped back from the canvas. The painting before him was horrifying, but it was alive, a chaotic explosion of emotion. Miss Albright walked over to him. She slowly circled the canvas, her eyes studying every stroke. "This is powerful," she said, her voice surprisingly soft. "A lot of them try to hide it. You showed it." She looked at his bruised face. Leo remained silent, feeling exposed. "I know your case, Leo," Miss Albright continued. She nodded at the painting. "And I see what you're feeling. This isn't just anger. It's remorse." Leo looked up at her. For the first time, he saw a person in her, someone who maybe saw more than just a criminal. "I have a proposal," Miss Albright said. "There's a large empty wall in the visitation room. We want to paint a mural on it, something to give this place a little hope." Leo felt his heart skip a beat. A mural? On a wall? It was almost like his old life. "Why?" he asked. Miss Albright shrugged. "Because it's needed. And because you have the skill. And I can write a petition." She paused. "For your parole. If the work is good. If you prove you're an artist. A person. Parole? It was a chance to get out of here early, a chance to atone for his guilt in some small way. "But Marcus," Leo whispered. Miss Albright gritted her teeth. "Marcus doesn't decide who paints what. There are rules here, and I know he's been pressuring you." She fiddled with her bracelet again, and Leo saw her knuckles turn white. "What should I paint?" Leo asked. "Something that speaks of freedom, of the future, of hope," Miss Albright answered. "But no cliches, no stupid birds and flowers. Something real." Leo took a deep breath. This was risky. If Marcus found out, his situation would get even worse. But there was no other way out. "I'll do it," Leo said. His voice was firm. Miss Albright nodded. "Good. Come to the visitation room tomorrow morning. The supplies are already there. And try to keep a low profile." For the next few days, Leo spent his time in the visitation room. On one of the walls, huge and bare, he was to create his masterpiece. Officer Miller, who occasionally looked in, just scowled. He clearly didn't approve of the project, but didn't contradict Miss Albright. A Leo busy painting was less of a problem for him. Leo started with sketches. He drew a sky with shades of dawn and sunset. He drew silhouettes of trees with intertwined roots, symbolizing connection and support. He wanted to show that even in the darkest places, something could break through to the light. The visitation room was gradually transformed, The walls, once gray and oppressive, now began to breathe with color. Parents visiting their kids cast interested glances at the emerging mural. Sam, who brought him water from time to time, looked at the wall with admiration. "Wow, Leo," he whispered one day. "This is beautiful." But the news of the artist who got a special project quickly reached Marcus. For him, it was a direct challenge. Leo, who had dared to refuse him, was now getting privileges. It undermined his authority. The day before the parole board was scheduled to arrive, Marcus approached him in the mess hall. "They say you're painting walls now," Marcus said, his voice a low, almost purring threat. Leo looked up. He saw cold fury in Marcus's eyes. "It's for the board," Leo replied. Marcus smirked. "The board? You think that's going to help you? You're naive." He leaned closer. "I have one last job for you." Leo clenched his jaw. "Tonight," Marcus continued, "you go to that little room of yours, and you ruin your painting. You add our tag to it, so they know who's in charge here." Leo felt a chill. Deface the mural? It would be like killing Dylan all over again. A betrayal of everything he was trying to atone for. "I'm not doing that," Leo said, his voice trembling. Marcus straightened up. "You're not? Then you're stupid. If you don't do what I say, by tomorrow morning, you won't be able to paint or walk. I promise you that." Tony, standing nearby, let out a short laugh. Leo felt the noose tighten. He knew these weren't empty threats. He was trapped. That evening, after lights out, Leo lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. He couldn't sleep. He saw the mural in his mind, every stroke, every line. It was his confession, his only hope. To destroy it would be to destroy himself completely. Suddenly, Sam stirred. "Leo, you asleep?" he whispered. "No," Leo answered. Sam sighed softly. "I heard what Marcus said, about the mural." Leo was silent. "Don't do it," Sam whispered. "Don't ruin it. It's yours." Leo felt a surge of warmth. Someone cared about his work, about his hope. That was the last straw. "I won't," Leo said. His voice was firm. The decision was made. Now all he could do was wait. Around 2 a.m, Leo heard quiet, creeping footsteps. The cell door creaked. The lock clicked. It wasn't a guard. Sam sat up abruptly on his bunk. His eyes were wide with terror. 3 silhouettes appeared in the doorway. Marcus was in the lead. His eyes burned with a sinister fire. "Well, artist," Marcus whispered, "you've made your decision, haven't you? The hard way." Leo remained silent, clenching his fists. "Get up," Marcus ordered. "Let's go. Let's see this masterpiece you've been painting." Leo slowly slid off his bunk. "Don't touch him, Marcus," Sam whispered. Marcus just sneered. "Shut up, rat, or you'll get some too." Tony grabbed Leo's arm, roughly dragging him toward the door. They walked down the long, empty corridors. Finally, they reached the visitation room. Marcus shoved Leo inside. The room was bathed in dim light. The huge mural, with its dawn-lit skies and intertwined tree roots, covered the entire wall. Marcus walked up to the wall, running a hand over it. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said mockingly. "Too bad it's about to get dirty." "I won't let you," Leo said. Marcus laughed. "You won't let me. Tony, give him the paint. Let him ruin it himself." Tony handed Leo a can of black spray paint, the symbol of his former art, now turned into a weapon of destruction. "Well, artist, your choice. You do it or we help you," Marcus said. Leo looked at the can, then at the mural. He saw Dylan. He saw Sarah. He saw the pain in Dylan's parents' eyes, and he saw his mural as the only way to atone for that pain. "No," Leo said, and in that moment he threw the can right at Marcus's face. The can missed, hitting the wall, but black paint splattered across Marcus's clothes. Marcus roared, "You son of a bitch, get him!" Tony and the other guy lunged at Leo. A fight broke out. He dodged their punches, trying to protect his face. One of the guys grabbed him by the hair while the other hit him in the ribs. Leo fell, but immediately rolled away, grabbing a paintbrush from a table. He blindly jabbed it at Tony's face. Tony howled. "What artist feel like painting?" Marcus wiped the paint from his face. His eyes were pure rage. He grabbed a large canvas from a table and threw it at Leo. The canvas knocked him off his feet. He landed right in a tray of blue paint. Leo scrambled up, grabbing a can of paint thinner. He splashed it in Marcus's face. "My eyes, you bastard," Marcus screamed. It gave Leo a momentary advantage. He grabbed an easel and used it as a shield. In the chaos of the fight, paint cans were knocked over, smearing colors across the floor and walls. One of Marcus's guys swung, missed Leo, and punched the mural directly. With a dull thud, a chunk of fresh paint flaked off, leaving a dark scar on the dawn sky. Leo cried out, "His mural, his hope." Rage gave him new strength. Just then, there was a noise outside the door. Loud footsteps, voices, guards. "What's going on in here?" Officer Miller's raspy voice boomed. Marcus and his men froze. Miller burst into the room, followed by 2 other guards. Seeing the mess, he swore. "What the hell?" "Marcus, Tony against the wall now!" Miller ordered. The guys obeyed. Marcus shot Leo a look from the side of his eye, his gaze promising more trouble to come. Leo stood, breathing heavily. The fight was over. But when he looked at the mural, at the dark, gaping wound on the dawn sky, his heart sank. The mural was damaged. His hope, his redemption, was threatened. He had fought off Marcus, but the victory was bitter. Officer Miller surveyed the wrecked room. "Marcus, you're going to the hole. 1 week, and no visitation," Miller said dryly. Marcus, wiping paint from his face, shot Leo a venomous glare. "I'll get you, artist, I promise," he hissed. The guards led them out. Leo slowly walked over to the mural. The dark patch on the dawn sky looked like a huge, unhealing wound. "It's over," Leo thought. "The board is coming tomorrow, and they'll see this. No parole." The door opened again, and Miss Albright walked in. Her face was etched with worry. She saw the stain on the wall, the mess, and Leo, bruised and covered in blue paint. "What happened here, Leo?" she asked in a whisper. "Marcus," Leo answered. "He wanted me to destroy it. I refused." Miss Albright nodded slowly. "The board arrives tomorrow morning," she said, looking at her watch. It was almost 3 a.m. "We have a few hours." Leo stared at her, not understanding. "We have to fix this," Miss Albright said, turning to him. There was no pity in her eyes, only determination. "Right now. How long will it take?" Leo blinked. "All night, maybe longer." "All night it is," Miss Albright replied. She quickly dialed a number. "Miller, it's Albright. I need the key to this room, and a couple of buckets of hot water and some rags. Now." Officer Miller, grumbling, brought the keys and buckets. "Listen, Miss Albright, if any of this gets noticed." "Miller, just leave us, and don't let anyone in here until 8 a.m. Miss Albright cut him off. There was steel in her voice. Leo and Miss Albright got to work. First, they cleaned up the mess. Then, Leo took a wet rag and began to carefully wipe away the black stain. It was harder than he thought. "Careful," Miss Albright said. "Don't damage the base coat. We can paint a new layer over it." They worked in silence. Leo felt the last of his strength draining away. His eyes were heavy, but he couldn't stop. He saw the faces of Dylan's parents. He saw Sam's eyes. He had to do this. Slowly, hour by hour, they restored the mural. Miss Albright helped mix the paints and handed him brushes. She wasn't an artist, but her persistence and faith in Leo were contagious. By 5 a.m, the damaged section was covered. Leo began applying new layers. The dawn sky began to glow again. The tree roots grew through the darkness. He worked as if in a trance. Every brushstroke was a prayer, every movement an attempt at redemption. He felt his pain, his guilt, his despair transforming into color, into form, into something beautiful. By 7 a.m, the mural was finished. Leo stepped back, his hands trembling. He looked at the wall. The wound was gone. "Not bad," Miss Albright said, her voice hoarse with exhaustion. "Even better than before." She smiled, for the first time all night. An hour later, when the parole board arrived, the visitation room was sparkling clean. There was only the majestic mural on the wall, and Leo, standing beside it, bruised but with his head held high. The board consisted of 3 people. They walked in slowly, their faces serious. Miss Albright greeted them. "Good morning. This is Leo, the young man I told you about," she said. "And this is his work." The board members approached the mural. They studied it for a long, silent moment. "Impressive," an older woman said. "Very powerful. What does it mean to you, Leo?" Leo took a deep breath. It's my attempt to show that even in here you can create something, that you can change. It's my pain and my hope." Miss Albright handed a folder to one of the men. "I've prepared a petition. Leo has demonstrated exceptional remorse, perseverance, and a desire to atone. This isn't just a painting. This is therapy that worked." The board left to deliberate. The minutes stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Finally, the door opened. "Leo," the older woman began, "we've reviewed your case, your work. It truly made an impression on us." She paused. Leo held his breath. "We've decided to grant the petition for your parole," she said. "On probation, of course, with the condition that you continue art therapy and community service." The words hit him like a thunderclap. Leo couldn't believe his ears. Freedom? He looked at Miss Albright. A faint smile played on her lips. "But this isn't the end, Leo," the woman said. "This is just the beginning. You have a lot of work ahead of you, on yourself, and on making sure you don't come back here." Leo nodded. He knew. This wasn't forgiveness. It was a chance to live, to carry his guilt, but to turn it into something creative. His release day came 2 weeks later. Leo stood at the gates of Northwood. The air outside smelled fresh, of damp earth and exhaust fumes. He took a deep breath. The sky was truly blue. Miss Albright stood beside him. "Here, Leo, this is for you. Good luck," she said. Officer Miller limped over to the gate. He nodded at Leo. "Don't come back here, kid. There's nothing for you here." The first few weeks of freedom were strange. Everything seemed too bright, too loud. He lived in a small room, washed dishes at a diner, unloaded trucks, and every day he painted. One day, his art therapist on the outside, an elderly woman named Evelyn, showed him an ad. A community center in a rough neighborhood was looking for an artist to paint an exterior wall. "They want something inspiring," Evelyn said. "I recommended you." Several months passed. Leo stood on a lift in front of a massive wall. The mural was almost finished. He was painting a city waking up. colors of dawn breaking through the silhouettes of buildings, trees whose roots went deep into the earth, their branches reaching for the sun. "Looks great, Leo," Evelyn's voice called from below. Leo smiled. "It's good, Evelyn. Better than ever." He looked at the mural. It was his story, a story of falling and trying to get back up. He lowered the lift. As he stepped off, his gaze drifted across the street. On the opposite side stood an older couple. They were looking at the mural, and then their eyes moved to him. Leo froze. His heart clenched. It was them, Dylan's parents. They looked older, tired. There was no hatred in their eyes, only a deep, unbearable sadness. They stared at him in silence. Leo couldn't look away. He felt all his pain, all his guilt over Dylan, wash over him with renewed force. Time stood still. He saw in their eyes not just grief for their son, but the knowledge that he, Leo, was the cause of that grief. Their gaze was a silent reproach that needed no words. Leo felt a chill run down his spine. He could escape the prison walls, escape Marcus, escape the smell of bleach. But he could never escape this look, this guilt. It was a part of him, like a shadow. He realized that redemption wasn't about being forgiven. It was about carrying your burden, turning destructive guilt into something creative. And this mural, this bright city, was his way of carrying that burden. A heavy hope.